Hello and welcome to this week's Samplecast. I'm Ruben Cornell. This is episode 72. This is a reasonably short, sharp show this week. We'll have a big review of Moto Cellos by Performance Samples. Lots of freebies and bargains, but let's kick off with this week's news. So let's start with one of the biggest releases of the week. This is two sampled harps from Orchestral tools. It's called Berlin Series Symphonic Harps, and as ever they've been recorded in the Teledeck scoring stage in Berlin, and this is a 40GB compressed package running in the full version of Kontakt 5.5.1 and above. The library features true pedal control, playable glissandi patches, many stackable articulations and release damping amongst lots of other features as well. There's a downloadable PDF available with all the details on the Orchestral Tools website. Although I've not had the chance to play with this library, it does look like another great release from them, so have a look at their site for more details. The guys from ADSR keep sending me emails all about their latest releases, which are usually focused on dance production, so I don't normally put them in the show, but this one did catch my eye. It's called Cartel Hall Textures and Drones from Laniakea Sounds, I hope that's right, and this is a sample pack of over 100 noises, textures, drones and music loops in WAV format. I rather like the demo track available for this, and it's just $20, so maybe worth a look. Have a check on the ADSR website. Those good folks at Vienna have a new sampled Yamaha concert piano, and this has been recorded in their newly refurbished Synchron scoring stage. The stats for this library are quite staggering. It's got up to 4,200 samples per key, a new playback engine and realistic half and repedaling. The piano also has 6 different presets for different timbres and applications, and there are 2 versions of the piano available, one with more mic positions than the other, so do check out the VSL site for the exact stats. Personally, I don't use VSL products day to day, but I know lots of other people who do, and they'll be excited to have a piano recorded in the same space as their other orchestral libraries, so do check it out. Modwheel are renowned for developing crazy Kontakt instruments that no one else has thought of, and their latest release, bass Banjo, is no exception. This runs in the full version of Kontakt 5.6 and above. It's just over 2GB in size. Now, they sent me this for a test run and a little play about with, and I managed to coax some very interesting and unusual sounds from it. Although you can play this library like a standard banjo, the fun really starts when you start to mess around with the percussion and the synth patches. There are 10 patches in total with built-in FX and arpeggiators. It's definitely an unusual one, so do check it out at the Modwheel site.
Beautiful.
Lastly, a pair of libraries from Umlaut Audio. Some people will know Umlaut from their inspiring ARP, pad and beat Kontakt libraries, and they've recently started producing WAV packs. Clouds came out a few weeks ago and Virga last week, and these are very long evolving textures that are extremely subtle. Umlaut asked me to put together a couple of videos to show off the sounds, so do take a look at those. They're available online, and within those I've recreated the styles of Thomas Newman and some other composers. There are around 100 sounds in each of these packs, and they're labelled with root key, and you can mix and match them. Virga also has a simple Kontakt engine for the WAVs, and you can take extra control over the sounds with FX and sequencing. There's more information about these at the Umlaut site. This week's bargains, and there's three big ones. The first is a big library from Sample Logic, and it's a favourite amongst many people. This is Cine Morphix. It's got over 6,000 instruments included and is 38 gigabytes in size. Cine Morphix features a full browser, morph options, hot swappable effects and full randomization. It'll run in Contact Player and also includes an almost 2-hour video course on how to make the most out of the library from Ask Audio. Cine Morphix has never been more than 40% off as far as I can recall, but this week you can pick it up for 75% off using the code CINE75. Head to the link in the show notes for details. This is another hot 75% off deal, this time on Vasilian Studios Harp. This is a chromatic sampling of a 34-string lever harp with up to 4 round robins and 3 velocity layers. It runs in the full version of Contact 5.6.8 and above. It's roughly 4 gigabytes in size and it's a lovely sounding instrument with multiple articulations and effects patches. There's bonus content here too. You also get a tenor voice and 240 vocal phrases included. These are very nice, and for the price I think I would probably pay that for the vocal patches alone. You also get $15 to spend in the audio plugin deal shop, so that's quite a lot of content for the money. This was almost $60 originally, but it's now discounted to $14.99. Do click the link in the show notes for details. I've been involved with putting together the walkthrough videos for SoundSpot plugins for a couple of years now, and I certainly recommend them for creative sound mangling. They're pretty inspiring. They're normally on some kind of discount when they're first released, but you can currently pick up 4 of them in a bundle for 90% off. So you get Axis, Nebula, Oracle and Orbit. They're mostly all multi-effects plugins for sound design and different kind of creative musical possibilities. Do click the link in the show notes for the full information. With Nebula, it's easy to transform sounds from this to this. Here's this week's big review, and we're covering Moto Cellos from Performance Samples. Now, the rise of Performance Samples continues, and this week they've released the first part of a new collection. There's also going to be bass, violins and violas, as far as I understand it. This is the cellos, and it runs in the full version of Contact 5.5.1 and above, and it's around 2 gigabytes in total, so quite a small library. It downloads using the Continuata system and features 6 cellos recorded in 4 microphone positions with 3 velocity layers and 2 different types of attack. So let's have a listen. The interface here is just about as simple as you can get. It's got controls for the 4 mic positions, which are close first chair, close section, decker and wide. There are panning and volume controls for each of these, and you can route them to different contact outputs. There's only really one main articulation to speak of, which is a sustained, where you can choose to engage the legato transitions or not with the key switches, and it's also possible to change the position of those key switches. If you've used other performance samples libraries before, then you've got a pretty good idea of how this works. The Italian phrase con moto literally means with movement, and that's the USP of this library, as the samples have been snipped out of performances. The tone here is warm, and on the whole it's well balanced, but it's not especially dry. Even the close mics retain a fair amount of hall ambience. This really is one of those libraries that you can just pick up and play, and it does a decent job of both longs and shorts. It can also be played at speed without becoming unstuck, so I really like that. Moto Cellos really excels at legato phrasing as well, especially if you bear in mind that the slower attacks can be played by hitting the keys at lighter velocities. I do have several gripes with this library. First, there are lots of notes where when you start to play a phrase, with the hard attacks you'll get a kind of double attack sound on the first note. This is most notable on the decker and wide mics. This is mentioned within the online manual, and also within the manual there are warnings for Logic users that the library may not run correctly for them all of the time, and there are also instructions in that manual for going under the hood and changing the velocity range of the attacks. And this is really where I have the problem. Now, although I do like the sound of this library and many of Performance Sample's other products, I do feel that the time has come for them to step it up a gear and start working on some general improvements to build their legacy of content. I know that their mantra is function over form, as stated on their website, but I think it would really help them to deliver their instruments with more appealing interfaces, especially this time around where in the manual users are being told to fiddle under the hood to change some parameters. This is really the sort of thing that should be on the main GUI. It's the same for the double attacks and the logic and audio unit issues. Yes, all of this is made clear on the website so that users can be aware of this before they decide to purchase the library, but this is almost becoming a list of issues for people to be mindful of before they decide to purchase. And if I'm looking at a library, I don't want to be thinking about, does it work with this particular setup that I have, and do I have to go under the hood? I just want things to work. Cost is another issue, and quite frankly I also think this library is too much for a single string section with basically one articulation. It's a great sound, but nevertheless it's very limited content for the full price of $149. If I was looking at this library as a new user, I think I'd probably wait until all 4 sections are complete. Maybe they'll be bundled together at some point, and perhaps some of the issues I've previously mentioned will be dealt with. Until then, it's really difficult for me to recommend Moto Cellos as value for money within the current marketplace, despite the top-notch legato performance. For more info and audio demos, do check the Performance Samples website. A couple of great freebies this week. The first one from Performance Samples. I reviewed their cellos earlier on in the show. They've got lots of freebies on their site, and they've just added a new one, which is low string effects. So you get percussives here, risers and downers, and these have been sampled from a 14-piece ensemble. There are also 2 contact instruments included here, but you don't necessarily need to use those. You can just play the sounds as wavs. The other freebie is a lovely sounding collection of 30 atmospheres and musical motifs from Audio Modern. It's called Momentum. They're between 40 seconds and 1 minute and 30 long, and they come as WAV files labelled with the root key. You just need to register on the Audio Modern website to get the download link, and the description is in the show notes. Thanks so much for checking out this week's Samplecast. Don't forget to head over to the podcast if you haven't done so already. You can hear all of the products in action, audio demos, more audio examples, that sort of thing. We're also available on Twitter, Instagram. You can email me direct. All the details are on the screen now. And I will see you next week.